here at Crossfire Ministries to give you another cooking demonstration. Today what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to cook spaghetti squash. And spaghetti squash is just what it says. Inside the strands will look like spaghetti. So, I'm Debbie.
I'm Taylor.
And what we're going to start out with is showing you how to cook this spaghetti squash. Now, spaghetti squash can be used in place of things like rice, potatoes, even spaghetti. It has kind of a mild taste, and so what you're going to want to do is use some kind of sauce or gravy, and we'll show you how to make a tomato sauce to go with this. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do when you get your spaghetti squash is cook it with forks or a serrated knife or something, because otherwise when you bake it, it could explode. It could burst. That's probably a better word. You want to put it in an oven for 375 degrees for an hour. It's still a little warm. We just cooked this. Now, if you don't want to put it in your oven, you can put it in your microwave. You're still going to need to poke it, okay? But what's going to happen is it will cook faster, but you'll have to test it with your fork. Your microwave will have different, temperatures for it. So, let me make sure I covered everything. So what we're going to do, and I forgot to say, when you put it in the oven, put it in a shallow baking dish, okay? All right, that's the way. Leslie cooked 4 of these, or baked 4 of these, so we'll be ready to show different recipes. Now, the first thing Taylor's going to do is take a serrated knife, and she's going to cut it in half lengthways. And it should go pretty good. Now, it's still warm. In fact, it's a little...
If you need to, you can use a pot holder.
Okay.
You can see it's steaming.
Oh yeah, it's still... But it should cool off pretty fast, but it is going to be... You're going to have to just be careful. When you're cooking it, you can take more time and let it cool off. Ours is still kind of warm. Can you get it to split open?
Yeah.
All right, now take a look. Inside it, see, there's some seeds and some fibrous strands. You don't want them in your recipe. So what Taylor's going to do is scoop them out. And you can use a spoon to scoop them out, though you might need a fork. It just depends on how soft it gets after you cook it. See where it's kind of sticking on there? So she may have to. But once that is all out, what we're going to do is show you how this can turn into basically spaghetti, just like it's called, spaghetti squash. And just discard that. There's really no secondary use for it, unless you scrape out the seeds and you could roast them in the oven just like you would pumpkin seeds. Put a little salt on them, and it's just a nice low-calorie, nutritious snack that you can have around the house. And really, you get secondary use. One of the things we want to talk about, these recipes are going to be downstairs in the recipe rack in the pantry area, and we like to refer to people that use these recipes as being on the winning team for their family, because you really are a winner when you can use food that's in season, perhaps in your garden, or food that we have before you go shopping. So that's what we call ourselves. We call ourselves the winning team because we're going to be able to use this food that's available to you. And when it comes in season, it's really pretty good price. How's it coming along, Taylor?
Oh, it's coming.
Okay, Taylor has scraped it out. One thing we realized as we were scraping it out is some people might find it easier to cook your spaghetti squash before you cook your spaghetti squash, scoop it out, cut it in half. Now, it'll be a little harder to cut it in half that way, but then you'll have everything scooped out of it. And then the end here can kind of get in your way, so you might want to cut that off before you scoop it out. So Taylor is going to show you how to get the spaghetti out of the spaghetti squash. Some people, like Taylor's doing, take it from the side, and some people go lengthways, whatever works best for you. And see how it's turning just into those strands of the spaghetti. And that'll be so easy. You can use this in really a variety of dishes. Like we said, we're going to show you how to make a tomato sauce to go along with this. If we have time, what we're going to do is show you how to You could actually use this as a topping. You can make hash browns. There's really a variety things that you can do with the spaghetti squash. And as you know, when you prepare your food for your family, you're supposed to use the different colors of the rainbow. And your yellow and orange fruits, or vegetables, I mean, have a lot of the carotenoids, is that how I pronounce it? It's extremely nutritious for you and low-cal.
Wow, that looks just like pasta.
I know, it does. And look at how much you got out of that spaghetti squash. Now, you're not going to use the skin for it, but she got a lot out. So this is a meal relatively inexpensive that you can use for your family. And we're back and we're going to show you how to make a tomato sauce to go on the spaghetti squash that we prepared. I'm Debbie.
I'm Taylor.
Okay, what we're going to do is use pretty much everything that we've got in our pantry. What you're going to start out with to make a tomato sauce is 2 teaspoons of olive oil. And the reason that we're going to use the olive oil is the recipe calls for 2 cloves of garlic. Now, we did not happen to have the cloves of garlic, so what we're going to use is garlic powder. And you could use garlic salt, but you want to pay attention to how much salt that you're putting in your recipe. So Taylor's going to put in 2 teaspoons of the garlic powder. What we're going to do is put all our spices together so they can start sauteing with the diced tomatoes. And we'll show you the diced tomatoes in just a second. What we're going to do is take 1.5 teaspoons of the basil. Now, before Taylor puts it in, one thing we found out from the canister, the basil container, and what we've been told is if you rub that basil together, what you're going to do is release the natural oils in the basil, and you get a fresher taste in your recipe.
Oh, it smells so good.
Does it smell better?
Oh,
okay.
yes.
All right. And then what we have is 1/8 teaspoon of oregano.
Same thing.
And I forgot to say, it called for fresh basil. We didn't have that, so we're using the basil flakes. You can always substitute quite a few things in your recipe. One item, the final item we have right here is drained diced tomatoes. And what we're going to do is mix this together, and we're going to simmer it for about 10 minutes. Okay, now this is how you put your spaghetti sauce or your tomato sauce together with your spaghetti squash. Taylor has it all simmered. She has the spaghetti squash put on our plates. She's going to spoon a little of the sauce on. Now, you saw how we made it using all the drained tomatoes, but you know how sometimes in the pantry we have soft tomatoes? You can substitute and put in soft tomatoes instead of a can of diced tomatoes. And then one other thing that you can do that we talked about is, let's say you don't have diced tomatoes or you're in a hurry or something like that, you can use tomato sauce or spaghetti sauce right out of the can. And so you can use that right with your spaghetti squash. And people were talking as we were waiting, talking about how they enjoy this so much because it's a lot lighter, right, than the other pastas that you'll be eating. Now, Taylor's going to put some Parmesan cheese. Now, if your family doesn't like Parmesan cheese, we don't put it on. That's just a nice little flavor to it. And now our favorite part of our cooking demonstrations is we get to eat what we prepared. So, Taylor and I, Leslie are coming over, Linda, no Linda today, all right? Miss Leslie, let's give it a try here. I love that tastes just like spaghetti sauce, don't you think? Mm-hmm. And the spaghetti squash has kind of a crunchy texture. You notice that?
It's crunchy.
But I like that. I like that a lot. So again, remember how we talked about, you're a winner, you know, if you prepare this for your family. We always like to end our cooking demonstrations telling you that. Who are we?
The winning team.
Welcome to another one of our cooking classes here at Crossfire. Today what we're going to do is take the spaghetti squash that we've already prepared and show you how to make hash browns. I'm Debbie.
I'm Taylor.
And Taylor's going to be showing you how to do this. Now she's already taken the squash, cooked it, and prepared it by scraping out the inside of that spaghetti squash. And looks like spaghetti, doesn't it?
Oh, yes.
And you can use this as a substitute for rice or pasta. So what she's going to do is take a third of a cup of flour. You can use all-purpose flour, you can use whole wheat flour, and just mix that in. And then we've already prepared a half a cup of Parmesan cheese. And if you don't remember, just go ahead and put it in, hon. What we have are these recipes. They're already going to be prepared for you downstairs in our recipe rack in the pantry area. So she's going to just add a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. This is basically to your taste.
Just a pinch.
Just a pinch of salt and a little bit of pepper.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to use this thing.
Sure. So what we're going to do is mix this all together. Now while she's mixing this, she's been heating up 2 tablespoons of olive oil so that this will be all ready to put right in and cook it up. And you can really get quite a bit of hash browns out of this because the recipe is only going to call for basically a 1/4 cup of spaghetti squash per hash brown. And the moisture that you're seeing here that's in the spaghetti squash is really what's going to hold it together when we make a patty out of it.
Okay.
Are you ready? Oh, still a little bit more to just mix in. And I suppose what you could do is, if it really doesn't stick all the way together, is add just a touch of water to it to put a tiny bit more moisture. How does that look to you, Taylor?
I think it looks okay.
All right, let's give it a try. Why don't you take a small amount, about a 1/4 cup of that spaghetti squash. And what she's going to do is put it into the olive oil and then kind of pat it into the shape, make it a little bit thicker. See, won't that be just a nice attractive little hash brown that you can serve? So we're going to put a few more in, and then what we're going to do is once it's light brown, what you want to do is turn it over once and basically serve it just like that. You could use it with breakfast, you could use it at dinner. It's a really versatile product. You could also, we were told, like sometimes you might have a casserole or something like that, and you want to put a crust on top. You could make these hash browns, just put it right on top, and cook it when you bake it in the oven.
Oh.
Yep. Go ahead. Why don't we put these in, and we'll just use it up, and then we'll be back to try and taste it in a few minutes. Ready? All right, don't those look good? Taylor's flipped them over once. Now one thing we forgot to mention is make sure your oil is pretty hot so it starts cooking right away, browning, so you don't absorb the oil. We used olive oil. We tend to have olive oil here, but you can use any oil that you got, or you can use butter. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these out and put them on paper towels so you can drain the grease out of them. And then we're going to serve them. Now, the recipe says you can add a dollop of sour cream if you have it available. We didn't have any sour cream with this, did we? Okay, so we're just going to enjoy it this way. All right, again, now this is our favorite time of when we're cooking. We're going to taste it and see how this all turned out. Mine is a little crunchy. How's yours tasting, you guys?
Good.
Very good.